Hey guys, Carl from Purple Moose Plays. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Morrison Game Factory from designer Lauren Bello and publisher PostCurious. If you don't know PostCurious, this is a company that creates sort of highly thematic, very high production quality, beautiful, escape room style puzzle box kind of games, along the lines of something like Exit Game or an Unlock game, but a whole lot more sort of involved. I've been very curious for a very long time to try out some of their games, and I haven't had a chance yet. So when I got the opportunity to preview this one, currently now on Kickstarter, I jumped at the opportunity. Let's head down to the table. I'm going to give you a sort of overview of what's in the box and a general idea of how the sort of thematic flair plays out without any spoilers, promise. And then I'll meet you back up here to let you know what I thought about the experience. All right, so for this overview of the Morrison Game Factory, I'm going to do my best not to do any kind of spoilers for the game itself. I'm just going to show you sort of the components that come in the box and sort of the introduction to the game, which should be all things that are sort of viewable on the Kickstarter campaign anyway. So when you open up the box, inside the box you will find a bunch of components. So first there's this read me first letter, which I am actually going to read to you in just a second, but let me show you what's in here. First you've got this pouch with stuff inside that has a 3-number code lock on it. You've got this sort of pamphlet of all of the different games and products that the Morrison Game Factory is producing. And then you've got some things from their games. There's this Target the Pirate information here. There's a set of cards from the game Calibration. And I'll show you those without spoiling anything, but these cards are basically all cards that just have some kind of symbol on them like this. And you've got this sort of bag of bits. I'm sorry for the glare, but there are some colored dice, some colored meeples, some colored rocket ships in there from a variety of different Morrison Game Factory games. There's this game board here that looks like that. There's this activity page from the Word Zoo that has a word search printed on the back of it. And then finally in the bottom of the box there is this folder marked 3248, which is a sort of maintenance log of the different machines at the company that give you some kind of information about what's being done to maintain the machines at the Morrison Game Factory. So taking all of those pieces and then reading this Read Me First story, which says, "Hey friends, so here's the scoop. I was exploring an old abandoned board game factory when I found this box on a conveyor belt, freshly printed, untouched, with the name of the factory on the front. Playing cards, dice, pieces of other games, there had to be some reason all these things ended up in the same box. But I wasn't sure what. So I did a little more snooping, looking in the folder labeled 3243, and check out what I found. I think there's a puzzle to solve here, maybe even a whole trail of puzzles. Here's the thing. I'm not the greatest with puzzles. All I know is this doesn't seem like the sort of game that requires outside knowledge, but it does seem like a game that might require more than what's in the box. For instance, a computer with internet access. Just a tip. I'm going to keep brainstorming, but in the meantime, I figured I'd better get this stuff into the hands of an expert. See what you can solve. If you get stuck, check out my blog at urbanexplorer.blog. Maybe I'll have made some more progress. Good luck, from one adventure to another." Now I'm going to talk to you about what I think about this whole experience in just a minute, but just looking at this letter and looking at the components that come inside and focusing on the components themselves, I am in love with the stuff that I see in this game. Because it really does build up this theme of discovering sort of an old board game factory and then finding all of this stuff that just happened to be at the factory. And then something's going on here as this person is telling me. There is some kind of puzzle, there is some kind of something happening that needs to be sort of looked into and figured out. And these components really tell that story. It really does feel like all of these things have come from a variety of different board games from this board game company. And I just love how everything feels and the sort of physicality of this game. It does mention here that you do need a computer with internet access, and you do, and I'll talk more about that in just a second when I talk about my final thoughts on this experience. But I just wanted to point that out again right here as I'm talking about components, because a computer with internet access is sort of a component for this game. So that's basically all I've got to show you physically. Maybe back up top and I'll let you know what I feel about the experience itself and how I enjoyed playing through this. Welcome back. I hope that overview was helpful for you to get a sort of glimpse at what this game is all about and what, comes inside the box for this game. I'm going to come straight out and say, boy, am I ever glad that I finally got to try out one of these PostCurious puzzle box games, because wow. From the moment I opened up the box, I was instantly pulled into sort of the world of this story. The theme in this game oozes, and I have to say that this is probably the most thematic one of these sort of escape room puzzle box kind of games that I've ever played. And that's saying a lot, because a lot of the unlock games and so on do have quite a bit of theme in them, but this one really felt like a real world discovery kind of thing. I opened up this box and found all of these sort of relics from an old board game factory. And then in there, from that note and from digging further into the pieces and other things that come out as you play through, it really does make it feel like this is a real thing that you've been pulled into. And it all ties in really, really well together. I'm going to tell you that it shows you in the letter anyway that there is internet connection required, so this isn't spoiling anything, but once you get into the internet piece, it really does pull you in, because that's where most of the story goes in. That's sort of how all the puzzles tie together. But it just really fascinated me how well the story comes through, not just in the way that the things are put together sort of in a path and a narrative way, but also how each puzzle really feels like it's part of that story and part of that theme, and that not only the kind of puzzle or the sort of type of solution you're looking for, but actually the components that you're using to solve those puzzles also fit into this theme, also fit into this story, and everything is just incredibly well integrated together in this package to make it feel like it is a found object that really does have some kind of connected story inside the box, and I loved every minute of that. Not only that, but the puzzles themselves in this game, nothing here is like mind-blowingly hard that you're going to stare at and churn through for hours and hours. It's not easy though, however, and I do a lot of these puzzle games. I do a lot of these sort of escape room in a box kind of games, so I've seen a lot of puzzles. I know the kinds of things that I should be expecting going into these. And I have to say that most of the puzzles in here are puzzles that I haven't seen before, or at least are new twists or new variations on puzzles that do things differently than I've seen before. And also what I thought was really cool here too is that the puzzles really feel integrated into this game. It's not like, okay, here's a puzzle, now that you solved it, I'll give you more stuff. It's the things that you're doing really mean what they are. And I don't know how to say that better without spoiling anything, but the things that you're doing are actually thematically relevant, and the way that you're solving the puzzle is often using more than one thing that you're given in a sort of integrated and unique way, that it's not just here's a puzzle, solve it, but it's here's a puzzle, now figure out what pieces you need to connect together and how to connect them together and what kinds of things to look for in those things or how they interact and so on in order to solve these puzzles. So there's this extra level of thematic twist, but also of this sort of, how do I put things together in the right way to solve the puzzle in the way that I'm required to solve the puzzle. And then the unlock for the next step makes sense because I've done whatever I needed to do in the story to find out the next thing that I needed to find. And I just really, really enjoyed this experience quite a bit. And this is honestly one of the best of these sort of escape room / puzzle box style games that I have played thus far, and I'm very glad to have done that. Now, if there's anything nitpicky at all to nitpick about, it is the internet system. And again, I don't want to spoil too much, but the internet system is designed in such a way that when you do certain things, more stuff unlocks on that website. But this is a game that's going to take several hours to play, so it might not be something that you sit down in one setting and play through. For me, it took me a couple of sessions just because of how I was slotting it into my daily schedule. And what that meant was occasionally I ended up closing my web browser while I was working on the stuff. And it meant that the next time I opened up the web browser, I had to basically redo everything that I'd already done up to the point where I'd gotten. And that meant entering information into the website, but it also meant clicking through a variety of story stuff that's coming out as I'm playing. And I just had to keep clicking the button, clicking the button, clicking the button to fast forward through things that I'd already read and fast forward through things that I'd seen before. Now, there is probably some reason for that without spoiling anything. What that means is it gives me the ability to go back and read other stuff that I've done before to remember story and to remember what's happened so far. And that's useful to have there. But it was somewhat annoying that every time I jumped back into a session, I had to repeat everything I'd done to get to the point where I'd left off. Whereas if there was a unique URL every couple of puzzles, or if there was a big code that they gave me every couple of puzzles that could let me jump ahead to the point that I had left off, that would have been really nice to have. But again, because of the way that it's designed and because of the way you're able to go back and redo things or revisit things, it might be better done the way it was. I just wanted to point out that it was a little bit of a hassle to have to do that every time. So if you are going to play this game, definitely, if possible, try your best to sort of sit down and play it through, or make sure that you're not closing down your web browser in between. If you leave that tab open and you come back to the same tab later, which I ended up doing later in my playthrough, that works perfectly fine, and it does sort of save your spot. And I also accidentally a couple times pressed back or went to a different website accidentally, and I instantly came back to this website and it did remember where I was. So you don't have to worry about that. Just know that if you close down and come back later, you will have to play through again what you've already done. Just putting that out there, because putting that aside, because that really doesn't matter aside from a little bit of hassle. This experience was really, really cool. And what this experience has done now is it's pushed me that I need to go and try more of these PostCurious games, because if this is what there is in these boxes, I'm very excited. This one in particular was really cool to me as a board game fan, because this sort of theme of finding old materials at an old board game factory and then digging through some kind of story that was going on at that factory was really, really fun and really, really interesting to me. So I had a blast with this one. Again, if you like escape room or puzzle solving games in a box, kind of games like Exit, like Unlock, like Deckscape, all of those kinds of games, this one takes those, increases the sort of quality of the materials, increases the sort of thematic and story flair in the game. This is world-class quality of this kind of game, and I can't recommend this enough if you enjoy these kinds of games. As I'm doing this video, this game is still on Kickstarter for a few more days. So if you head over to the link that I put down below in the comments, you can check it out for yourself. Again, I think you're going to like this one if you like these kinds of games. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon below, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks.